Hello everyone, Ben here, and we are in the BMW M6 GT3 here at Laguna Seca for 15 minutes of ranked racing on RaceRoom, and we are already underway from the rolling start. We qualified in 5th, but we're now down the outside of a couple of cars up ahead. We're going to try and make up a spot or two here, and it looks as if we've made it work and we're up into 4th place. So, really interesting session this, a tricky race. I've got to say, I didn't altogether enjoy it. Driving the BMW GT3 around Laguna Seca, quite challenging, as we're already now down the outside of the car running in 3rd place, so we're already vying for a podium here, but we just can't make the move stick around the outside. Getting the car turned in and around the kind of tight corners of Laguna Seca, I just found really challenging. I mean, I didn't make any changes to the setup, but it was a little bit like driving a boat. The car did not feel responsive enough at any stage during this race. It always felt like I was kind of wrestling it through the corners. Maybe a different car within the GT3 class would have been more sensible for this race. But nevertheless, we've qualified well, so we've got some pace. And we've made a good start to the race. We're up into 4th place and we look like we're holding station pretty well as we come round to the end of this first lap, closing in on the car ahead there as we came into the final corner, where we're going to cross the start finish line for the first time in 4th spot, and looking ultimately over the next few laps to just remain consistent, try and put a bit of pressure on, not do anything too silly at this early stage of the race, but nevertheless try and make up any opportunities or make the most of any opportunities that do come up. So I've raced quite a lot of Laguna Seca over a number of months really, and in particular just the other week I was in the rookie servers in the CR1 Cup car here. It's a different experience in the GT3. You can be a little bit more aggressive in terms of those curbs. You're not going to pick up quite the amount of damage that you do in a Formula car or in the CR1 Cup car. But as I say, everything just feels a little bit more heavy and cumbersome in the BMW here today, which meant that it just felt a bit of a struggle really all the way through this race to kind of get a degree of consistency together, particularly through that section there leading into the corkscrew. Really tricky to kind of carry pace through those corners, I found, all the way through, and you'll see that as we get into the middle section of this race. But look at that, up ahead the car runs slightly wide into the corner and then has some sort of major issue or failure. I don't know whether that is to do with the hardware of the sim racer himself, whether his wheel disconnected or something like that, or whether we got a puncture. But either way, he's dropped out of this race at the final corner there as we headed into lap 3. And that's promoted us up into 3rd place after about a third of this race. So we're sitting in a podium position, and despite having spent the first bit of this video complaining about how difficult the car was to handle, we're on for a pretty good result at this point. If I can just stay consistent. The top 2 in this race, I mean, they qualified quite a bit ahead of the rest of the pack, so I'm not anticipating we'll be able to make up much ground on them unless they make a mistake as well or come a cropper against an issue. But there's definitely here a good shout for us to get a 3rd place if we can just hold things together, maintain our pace. We've got about half a second gap back to the car behind, and it's been relatively stable that through this opening couple of laps. He closes in on us in certain parts of the lap. We're able to extend that gap again, particularly through this part of the lap. Actually, we seem to have a much better line than the car behind through these sort of 3rd and 2nd last corners of the lap, although we run slightly wide there as we come around the right-hander and into then the final tight left-hander before we close out this 3rd lap of the race. Picked up a couple of incident points, but nothing too significant in the first part of this race. We now skip forward a few laps. We've basically been running in this formation now for a good number of laps. There's 3 cars together now fighting over the podium position. We're at the head of this queue with about 5 minutes of this race left to go. It's been pretty good racing in terms of we've all been nice and clean, running decent pace, but there hasn't really been any challenges for position because we've all just been running quite consistently and matching one another's pace, but we have broken away from the group of cars behind. We've got about a 5-6 second gap back to those running in 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th. So it does look like it's going to be a three-way battle for the podium spot now, and we are in the prime position to take it, albeit we're coming under increasing amounts of pressure. We're losing time to the cars behind into that left-hander as we then climb up the hill to the corkscrew, and that is putting us under some pressure now as we come round to the back end of the lap. We in previous laps have been able to make that time back through that part of the course, and as we come now into the right-hander, but we're just not really able to kind of break away from the cars behind it. So there's a sort of concertina effect as we come around each lap, where every time it feels like we've got a bit of breathing space, Miller and Gadir, the drivers behind, close back up on us, and so we can't get any breathing space for any significant period of time. I was hoping that the two cars behind might get involved in a bit of a scrap and give us a bit of space, but that hasn't happened either. They're running pretty consistently at the moment too, and so at the moment it's all just sort of a bit of the calm before the storm, I suppose, as we're heading into the last third of this race. All the cards are in my hand, though. If I'm able to remain consistent and clean and just run my pace, I'm not sure the cars behind have got enough of an advantage to get past. It's really difficult to overtake at Laguna Seca. There are not that many clean opportunities to do it. Probably the final corner of the lap and the first corner of the lap are the best two opportunities, because you can see here they're closing in on us up the hill, but I mean, you'd be pretty brave, if not borderline kamikaze, to try and go through side by side at the corkscrew. You're almost guaranteeing an accident for one or both of you. So you can see we're approaching back markers here, which is going to mean that we have an extra factor to deal with as the car behind us finally makes a move into that last corner. He tried to get down our inside, but he didn't quite make it stick. But we are now running side by side as we cross the start-finish straight, so he's made a little jump on us. We gave him space, maybe a little bit too much space, but he's got the inside line on us now. We're going to try and hold him around the outside, but we've got this extra factor of the back marker to contend with, and look at that, we've made a slight bit of contact, and the guy in 4th place squeezes past as we got that wrong on the exit, and we've dropped down into 5th place. So we've gone from running in 3rd and in a kind of relatively comfortable podium spot, which we've held now for the vast majority of the race, to being down into 5th place, just through one mistake into the final corner of the lap and then another into the beginning of the next lap. That's a real shame, but I've now got to refocus, get back into in the right mindset and think, right, okay, we've been running close all the way through this race. There's every chance that we'll get an opportunity to take those spots back as we come into the final couple of laps of this race. We're going to take a slightly narrower line through the corkscrew to just try and prioritise getting a good exit, but you can see we're not really closing up, so I'm not anticipating being able to make a move into the final corner of this lap. The car ahead of us looks like he's feeling racy and that he's trying to get onto the back of Miller himself. He's going to brake quite late. He tries to get alongside, but he can't, and that's going to mean he runs slightly wide because he sort of sacrificed his exit to the corner. So we're now going to have a chance of a run into the first corner here as we're into what will probably be the penultimate lap. There's a yellow flag out because there's a car stranded on the outside of the corner, and there's contact up ahead. Gadir has nudged Miller round and Miller's gone off, and that's going to get us back up into 4th place. I don't think that was intentional. I think Gadir was essentially defending from us and trying to go late on the brakes, and that led him to making contact with Miller up ahead. So Miller's dropped down into 5th place. He did get going again quite quickly, but he's about 1.2 seconds down on us now, and so we're really going to have the rest of this lap and one more lap to try and get back up into 3rd place and reclaim that podium spot. We're so evenly matched on pace. I think it's going to be a really tight one to see whether that is going to be possible. And clearly, as we fight over that position, there's a good chance that Miller will come back into play as well. So this battle is far from over here as we enter into the 3rd sector of the penultimate lap of the race. I'm going to try and close up on Gadir here into the final part of the lap to see if there is a chance, and he's braked very late into that corner there, so we might just have a chance to make a move into the final corner, but we're too far back. We're going to prioritise instead getting a good exit onto the start-finish straight. We're unfortunately not going to be close enough either, I think, to make a move into the first corner. So that is a shame, because this is one of the best opportunities to make a pass on the lap. We try and take a nice and aggressive wide line and just try and get our car alongside, but we're not going to be close enough, so we have to duck back into the apex of the corner. We haven't lost too much time in being quite aggressive there, and we're going to just try and hold it now tight through these two corners where there really isn't a chance to get alongside. You just have to try and tuck in and maintain a bit of pressure on the car ahead through here. But I am thinking here, well look, what's up for grabs? We can try and get on the podium here. If I don't try and make a move and stick close to him through the rest of this lap, then I'm basically going to have to settle for fourth spot. It's worth a gamble. So here we go. We'll come into this corner here. I'm going to try and carry a little bit more speed through. We both do, but we just get it slightly too aggressive. And we're into the gravel trap, and that means we lose fourth spot as well. And we drop down into fifth. On reflection, probably a mistake to try and be too aggressive through that part of the track, rather than just, you know, playing it safe and then looking to get a bit more aggressive through this final set of corners. But to be absolutely honest, I thought it was worth the gamble, because if we didn't do something different, if I didn't try and get a bit more overspeed into the corkscrew to then line up a move later in the lap, then we were guaranteed to finish fourth. And at the end of the day, the difference between finishing fourth and fifth in a ranked race, it's not all that great, so I thought it was worth the punt. But in the end, we're going to come home fifth. A little bit disappointing, because I think we had a podium in our hands, and just a couple of small mistakes meant that we ended up giving it up and ended up coming home in fifth instead. But altogether, a sort of a reasonably enjoyable race. As I say, the kind of experience of driving the car I struggled with most of the race. So given that context, to come home with a fifth place, I think I've got to be pretty satisfied. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the race. If you have, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.